Hello everyone, my name is Alex Sanchez. In this time, I am going to talk about evaluation of student results. As a teacher, we must consider where to test, what type of test we should, and who we are going to grade the test. We should laws now that assessment has different phases of the assessment process that can help with making appropriate decisions about testing in the classroom. Stage 1. Feedback from tests. At this stage, the first decision we must make in whether we want a quantitative or qualitative response to the test. That is, much of current classroom practice is to report the results as a number or a grade, but this quantitative record is of a little use to the teacher. In contrast, if we provide qualitative statements about the student results, they are more likely to be meaningful and of some future utility to teachers and students that numerical scores. In another aspect, we have delayed or immediate correction. This refers to the fact that sometimes students receive information shortly after taking a test and sometimes the results are delayed. The best thing to do is for the student or to get their results as soon as possible so that we as teachers can provide feedback to help our students. But we must know that according to the type of test to be performed, it will take the due time for its correction. Everything will depend on the rest to be performed. Stage 2. Test type. The main objective of evaluation is to provide feedback to the teaching learning process in each of the students. Here, I can distinguish two types of test which in the placement test that has the purpose of placing students in a class at the appropriate level. If, on other hand, you need to make a selection among a large number of students to enter a specific course, then you need a selection or a screening test, which is other type of test. In both cases, its main purpose is so classify students. It can be said that evaluation is a very important stage within the teaching learning process, since it is the one that provides information on what was achieved by an educator in his or teaching practice. Finally, the time of test will be a performance or achievement test. And if test is designed to assess a specific or discrete aspect of the learning program, it may also have a diagnostic dimension. Stage 3. Test strategy. There are two uses to consider here. The first, the first is, whose responsibility is it? Traditionally, it has been thought to be the responsibility of the teachers, the institution, or the government agency, but none of them are responsible. There are thing, there are three things to keep in mind. The first, the function of the test, the nature of the feedback required, and the receiver of the test information. Then, in the function of the testing is external to teaching and learning without being specific in percent scores or grades. There is less argument in favor of student control. In the function of the test is to inform the teaching process. Thus, when the test is part of teaching and learning, the opposite occurs. The second is test procedure. Here refers to the type of test used. Traditional practice favored pencil and paper tests, but now There are more options and shift the responsibility from the teacher to the student. In relation to the student, Lewis and Moon acknowledge that evidence should be seen as dynamic multidirectional system in which learners participate interactively with others in making judgments about themes as learning and language, user of the basis of criteria defined and adjusted according to the learning situation. Stage 4. Test content. There are at least two ways to evaluate the role of examination in the course of teaching. The first, when a test related to an immediately presenting lesson of a unit of work, it is more likely to have a very specific focus and limited coverage of course content, such as achievement on granting the passive active voice of reading specific information. Second, when the purpose is to review a variety of material taught over a longer time scale, the test content will involve a broader coverage of items and have a more general focus. With regard to classroom testing, A, when the purpose of testing has been identified as pedagogical, the testing approach can be both selective and general, with a predominance of content-focused activities. In contrast, when tests have a classificatory purpose, a general and global approach to content is more relevant. Stake 5. Marking criteria. Most teachers rely on the syllabus and text as the primary source of their grading criteria. These criteria are usually of two types. The first focuses on language, referring to grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, accenting, and intonation. The second includes criteria such as style, education, organization, ability to convey the message. Once the appropriate evaluation the criteria have been selected, we must decide with which grading scheme we are going to work. The grading criteria are not selected on a whim. The whips understand that no teacher is going to give the grade she wants just because he feels like without first having weighed the student attitude. Finally, stage 6, test selection. At this stage, we will select the list that best situates us to evaluate the students, taking into account the 6 state students, which are the following. Step 1, determining the nature of the test comments. Step 2, determining the type of test. Step 3, determining the test strategy. Step 4, determining the content of the test. Step 5, determining the qualification criteria and the qualification scheme. And finally, in step 6, selection the appropriate steps. This is my presentation. Thank you for your attention.